From the north.
Testing 1, 2. Kate, can you hear this? Testing 1, 2.
And my program.
Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2.
So I kind
I've turned on the recorder. The time is now 9:32 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Venetian Community Development District to order. Today is Monday, October 26, 2021. First item on the agenda is the call to order / roll call. Those supervisors that are present are Rich Bracco, Steve Kleinglass, Richard McCafferty, and Ernest Booker.
Present.
On behalf of District Management, it's myself, Belinda Blevin. District Council, Andy Cohen is present. District Engineer, Rick Schoffer is present. General Manager of the River Club, Denise Payton is present. Field Manager, Keith Livermore is present. We also have Rudy Sertan from Vesta Property Services, as well as Wendell Gartner from Prague. And we do have representatives of MVP present, as well as audience members.
Can we back up to the pledge?
So, ladies and gentlemen, next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, we will limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. Our first speaker is Darlene Schindler.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I
Morning.
attended the last meeting and there was a lot of discussion, and I think it was the last meeting, you have to excuse me if I missed one. The reason I want to talk about the pickleball courts is I, as a resident and a member of this club and one of the owners of this club, do not find where putting in another amenity that provides absolutely zero in any kind of revenue makes no sense when we are operating at such a loss at this time. I don't see where it's going to be an added venue of any kind that where it's going to supply us with anything that we really need that we don't already have. I mean, pickleball, yes, it's great. People may like it, but do we really need it? Do we really need to go through $175,000 worth of construction to make a pickleball court for this community? Just a question. I mean, I've thought it over, I've looked at everything, I've looked at all your notes, and I just don't see any really good reason to have it. I think we're putting enough money into the tennis courts, which are used constantly, and I think that's where the effort maybe should be more, is on the tennis courts. Pickleball to me, I mean, doesn't mean a thing to me. And the sound ordinance that was provided, the report, so silly. I mean, we're not looking at the paddles of the pickleball court. We're looking at the loud comments. We're looking at the crowds that may be gathered. We're looking at the same thing that they're looking with the tennis courts. So I think we really, really need to rethink this, relook at it, and I really think it needs to take a vote of the community, not just your vote. That's a lot of money to put into it. So that's my first thing. Strategic Planning Committee. I spoke with Rich, and I've also sent my name in to Belinda as wanting to be a part of that Strategic Planning Committee. And I think with my background, I have over 50 years of finance background. I've run my own business for 11 years, and I have been in charge of numerous banks and hundreds of employees with their financials. So I think that I have something to offer for that committee, and I would really like to be considered for it. So thank you so much.
Just a comment or two, Darlene.
Sure.
I'll start with the last one. I think you have a very impressive resume. I think we all read it. So that's very good. And so also to see somebody step up who has not been involved in anything else is very commendable. And that's true of virtually every one of the applicants that we got. The total cost of the pickleball courts, it's not $175,000. That included the pickleball courts and the dog park. I think we were talking about, Rick, what did we say, $25,000 a court, 3 courts, $75,000, something like that? And that's the whole nut. Every effort will be made to mitigate sound. I mean, I live down the street, right down the street from you, in fact. we're moving forward with the plan. It's going to be in the hands of the Venice City Council, firstly with the planning board. And as I've responded to both positive and negative emails over the last week or so, I've said the same thing basically to everybody. Times and dates of those hearings will be publicized. And I encourage people who have strong feelings to be at those meetings and express them.
Collaboration system. Please enter a conference site.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Okay, all right. And just so you know, I think you're getting such a big response from the community and people interested in working with you is the fact that what we just went through with our other initiative, neither here nor
Gotcha.
there, we would like to have more of a common ground with with your committee and with what you do, because I see all the effort you put into it, and I think it's time for new people to step up, and the old people that have been on all these committees, they have done a tremendous job, and I think we need some fresh ideas.
Let's not say old, let's say the experienced ones.
Well, I'm old, so I can say old.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we move forward, I'm just going to connect the conference line because we do have Scott Brzezina. He wants to be present for the Parag
Great.
presentation. So let me just
Welcome to the Nextiva collaboration system. Please enter a conference. You will now be placed into the conference. Press star for help.
So Scott Brzezina and Bill Johnson from Brzezina Company will be joining us for the Parag presentation.
Okay, great.
So we're going to move forward with public comment. Our next guest speaker is Jill Pizarro. Jill?
Morning, everybody. Jill Pizarro, 1C1 Portofino. Two quick things, actually. I wasn't going to spend too much time on pickleball, but when I do want to ask a question though, Rich, or maybe it's a Mr. Schabaker question. The 20 to 25,000 a court, does that include things like landscaping and sound abatement, or is that pure construction? It doesn't. Oh, it does include it.
Yeah, it's the whole package.
Okay, all right, that's great news, because one thing I did want to say about pickleball then is, I think given the fact that we're all neighbors, I really would like to see the board reconsider, or maybe consider is the right word, paying a sound engineer, with all due respect to Rick, because I think he does a fantastic job, but I would like to see us spend maybe a little bit more money, not only to ensure that any money we are spending on sound abatement is in fact the right steps, but I think it will help allay some of the concerns from neighbors who live nearby. So please, if you would just respectfully consider that. The other thing I wanted to ask, Rich, is do we have a number that we can say publicly of what we think the damage is from the hydraulic fluid spill from the garbage trucks? I read 40,000 in the paper, but.
Well, the original lawsuit, I believe, against the city was 412 or 417.
Okay, it was in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is I was looking last year at how much we spent extra on attorney's fees, and also Mr. Schopper's fees, and probably additional fees on Rosetta, and then again the budget this year. So if I'm correct, we're looking somewhere at already having spent roughly $100,000 by the time we get to the end of this fiscal year on the lawsuit.
It's been costly, for sure.
Yeah. So I think obviously you don't want to discuss what you're discussing with Dan Lobeck, I think is his name, our attorney, but I would very respectfully ask that at some point we need to realistically understand from Mr. Lobeck where we might be passing the point of return and going to what I would call the bleak house. If anybody has read Charles Dickens' Bleak House, where the only people who won in the end were the attorneys. So I'm just a little concerned on that.
I hear you.
Yes,
Just a comment before you leave.
yes.
The $25,000 that's being talked about is an estimate from the engineer.
Okay.
We don't know what the cost of these pickleball courts will be until it finally goes out to bid. So I wouldn't want anybody going out of here saying it's going to be $25,000. That's an estimate.
Sure.
And given what's going on now, it'll be interesting to see what
Good
comes
point.
out of this.
Good point, Steve.
Good point, thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, there being no further speakers logged in, we're going to move forward and close our public comment at this time. The next item on the agenda is item number 5A, which is a presentation by Prague, which is behind tab number 1. Good morning, Wendell.
Thank you. When I was
Morning.
here at the last meeting, the board authorized us to go out with a request for proposal for banks for a loan to refinance your existing bonds and to look at a couple of different options within that loan. And I'm pleased to report that we received 2 very strong proposals for this, and sort of in line with what we expected. We said there wasn't going to be a lot of banks playing, since you were asking for a slightly over 20-year fixed rate term. But we thought there would be some interest, and we received 2 proposals. Both. Take this off.
Yeah, thank you.
Both of them are what we call clean proposals. There's no unusual requirements. They don't require any depository funding. Those were from Bank United and South State Bank. We also thought the interest rates were very attractive. And we were concerned, since you were doing the forward, we didn't want to overpay and have a higher rate than we maybe could achieve by waiting a few months. We think the rate is very attractive. Between the 2, for a 20-year term, which matches your existing debt, South State proposed an interest rate of 2.4% and Bank United 2.57. South State has slightly better prepayment options. It lets you prepay the loan earlier if you so chose. And South State has slightly higher interest rates. They're rated Baa2 versus Baa3 from Bank United. Both of them are investment grade. The reason that matters is we're going to be locking in rates in November, and they're not funding until January. So we want to be sure that we're not taking unusual risks. And for that 3-month period, both of the banks are acceptable. For the straight 20-year term, we would recommend South State Bank. What we're going to ask today is that you authorize moving forward with South State. And then at that point, we'll work with bond counsel, district manager, district counsel, and the bank to draft all the bank documents and come back to you with a resolution for the loan. Final numbers, the numbers we have here are very, very close, but we do need to finalize all of the dates and all of the costs. And at the same time, Rosetta will be preparing a new assessment report based on the new debt service. And your district council will be bringing a resolution authorizing that new assessment report. So what we're going to ask today is to pick a bank and then authorize a future meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to do all that before your next meeting on November 8th. So I think Linda's going to talk about either moving that meeting or setting a special meeting. We'd like to do it by November 22nd. The banks will hold their rates to that date. We then close on November 23rd. The other piece in the presentation we did is we also asked for a 15-year term, and we received 3 proposals there. And what makes it a little bit different is Bank United's proposal for a 15-year was slightly lower than South State's. We asked for a 15-year, which would actually shorten the term of your debt for 2 reasons. I think some of the board wanted to see what that impact would be. And because we knew 20 years is a kind of on the edge of the market, we wanted to see what a 15-year looks like to make sure we weren't overpaying, if that might be a better option. And although the 15-year is an option, we think the 20-year is a better option for the board. It fits your existing debt profile. It matches the average life of the assets that were financed. So people who are using them are paying them over the life of that. And it maximizes benefit for current residents. And finally, the interest rate difference, if you were to look at the best 15 versus the best 20, is only 5 basis points. Current market right now, the yield curve between the 15-year and the 20-year is about 14 basis points. So you're actually paying under market for that. You'll see on the little analysis, we tried to really only put the important stuff on here is what the savings looks like. And it is a little bit different because one of your existing series will end before the other, so you'll see a drop. But with South State, the first year savings are a little bit different because it's a partial year, but that would be about $245,000. And then through 2034, the savings would be about $347,000 a year. And then after that, year 42, it's about $135,000 a year. Pretty substantial savings. On a cash flow basis, the gross savings is about $5.5 million. We're achieving that both through a lower interest rate, and we're taking some of the excess funds that have built up and paying down the loan. So on a present value, where we look at kind of the cost in today's dollars, you're still saving a little bit over $3.4 million on a $14 million loan. That's a very, very substantial savings.
It's a good deal.
And the total cost, Wendell, for us to become involved in this?
Sure. There's three things that we're going to fund when we close the loan. We're going to obviously pay off the old bonds. We're going to establish a new debt service reserve, and we're going to pay cost of issuance. All of those costs are reflected in the numbers that you're seeing.
Right.
We're still working through some of the final numbers. We'd estimated a cost of issuance of about $133,000. That's a little bit high. Some of the numbers are coming in a little bit lower.
Right.
And those costs are for your financial advisor, your bond counsel, your district counsel, your district manager, the trustee, and the trustees council are going to have some fees. And we're also going to engage a CPA firm to verify the numbers and to make sure that we are putting aside enough money to pay off the old bonds. That's a less than $1,000 cost. We have went out and received 4 proposals for that. The lowest one was $975,000. We would use them. And that's necessary because we'll be closing these bonds on or the end of January, early February. We're working with bond counsel as to the right date because your actual call date is on a Sunday. So we want to make sure that we stay within the 90 days under tax law. So for that 90-day period, your existing bonds will still be outstanding, but we'll have put enough money in escrow to pay the interest and the principal on those bonds. And the CPA verifies that those numbers are correct. With the opinion from the CPA, bond counsel will then deem that those bonds are actually defeased. So although they're still outstanding as of February 1st, they're not your liability anymore. Your liability is only to the new loan, and bondholders are only secured by the escrow that we set up.
Okay. I had an opportunity to speak with Wendell on Friday, I believe it was, with the members of the finance committee, and I think the best way to describe this entire process is it's sort of like refinancing your home mortgage in many, many respects, except the numbers are bigger. But it's the same kind of thing. The fees that we will incur, this $133,000 that we'll incur, comes out of the proceeds. So it's not like we're paying a separate, giving them an additional $133,000. It comes out of the proceeds. Understand that we have about $1 million or so in escrow that was required because of the bonds. We'll no longer be required to have that $1 million. And what's going to happen with that money is it will reduce the amount of our loan. So it's a win-win. And when you look at the numbers, and I'm speaking to my fellow supervisors who were not part of that meeting on Friday, when you look at the numbers and you consider that the bonds that currently are in place are between 5% and 6%, and we're talking about 2.4, this is something that, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the members of the Reserve Committee, this is something that we can't pass up. We could delay and say, well, let's see what happens in December and all of that. But, if you look around and you see that mortgage rates are going up a little bit here and there, not tremendous, but they are going up a little bit. This is something that we need to act on, in my opinion, that we need to act on now. And what I'm going to recommend is that we move forward with the suggestion that has come from Wendell this morning. And we'll get the dates together, and then we'll alter our meeting dates to accommodate what needs to be done in whatever manner.
So we do have a meeting scheduled for November 8th.
Correct.
Typically only meet once in November.
Correct.
We'd like to recommend that the board cancel the November 8th meeting and move the meeting to November 22nd.
Mhm.
But we do need availability because we do need either the chair or the vice chair to be present to sign the closing documents.
I'll be here.
Will you be here, Stephen Town?
I will be here that week.
We need a quorum.
As far as I know.
That's Thanksgiving.
God willing, and the creek don't rise.
I will not be here the week before.
And I will not be there the week before.
But you will be, you're available on the
I'm on the
22nd?
22nd, I'm
Okay.
available.
Okay, so we will have an in-person quorum.
So we'll place it out.
We'll place an ad and
Okay.
cancel November 8th.
Okay, so November 8th will be canceled, November 22nd. And do we need a motion from the board to move forward with this?
We will.
Okay,
Before we do that, questions?
absolutely.
So Wendell, thank you first of all for the presentation. So a year from now or so, this is all done. Tell us again the number, the difference in the number that we're gonna see for savings.
For the next 12 years, your debt service in aggregate will go down about $347,000 a year. Now,
A year
per year.
per year, yeah, I'm with it.
That will
I
be
just-
shared,
I'm-
obviously, among the residents, and Rosetta will do the analysis as to how that is allocated to each of the individual units, based on our numbers
Right.
from the debt.
Okay,
Scott Bridgentine will prepare and produce an assessment methodology that, and I'll have a resolution that goes with it, and it will show if you lived in this house, you're gonna go down,
okay.
$50.67.
Yeah, my key point is residents are going to see a reduction in their assessment via this action
Absolutely.
Yes,
But for the following fiscal year.
and for the following years. And it's a significant reduction to residents.
Because we've already certified our roll, so they won't see it this November.
Right. No, I understand.
That's
I
only
understand.
weeks, but they will see it the next one.
But they're all, even though it will be less this year, the obligation will be less, so that will build up
It'll build into it.
for the future.
Rich.
I'm just trying to get a handle, so what is the committee recommending as far as years, the 15 or the 20?
The 20.
20, okay.
Prepayable on the 20?
Under the South State proposal, it is prepayable, beginning in the first year, there is a penalty of 1.5% for the first 3 years, then a penalty of 1% for years 3 through 6,
Then it stops.
no penalty thereafter.
So there may be some other opportunity on,
It is conceivable that as this becomes a much shorter loan,
Right.
depending on where rates are, it could be done again. Because you can prepay it though, at any point, even if you pay a penalty, if for whatever reason you need to raise additional funds in the future that are unexpected, this gives you the flexibility to pay off that loan if necessary. And that is a little different than the Bank United. Theirs was only allowable after May 1st, 2029.
Okay, and Wendell, your fees are
That is correct.
included in this, okay?
The only caveat is, because we're doing a forward issue, just for the audience, under tax law, you can only issue refunding bonds on a tax exempt basis within 90 days of the call date. And we're more than 90 days, so what we're doing is a forward. We'll be locking in the rates and pre-closing in November, and then the bank will fund it 90 days before May 1st.
Okay, Rich.
One of the bank councils was saying they want a portion of their fee at the pre-closing and portion at closing. That might require some funds from the district that we could recoup at closing. We're not sure about that yet, but it will be a minor amount. Our funds are included, our funds will be payable when the deal closes.
Hey, Rich.
Yes.
Did the finance committee come up with a recommendation?
Finance Committee reached consensus on the 20-year
South
Loan.
State.
through South State.
Okay, so it was an actual decision made.
So this
What-
one, the second.
Recommendation.
Second-
They don't make the decision,
Second
we
one,
do.
It was a,
Well, recommendation, I should say.
right.
just to follow up on Ernest's question. Did anybody on that committee run any figures to see what an approximate savings would be, or that has not happened yet?
an approximate savings, well, we have the number.
No.
Per home?
believe so. No, nobody's done
You'll
that.
see that when the methodology.
Right,
report
no, I'm
is
with you.
prepared.
I just thought maybe somebody ran some quick
Wendell will
numbers.
do it.
These numbers are pretty close to the total.
No,
They're
I'm talking individual homeowners.
I don't like to do.
Right, I'm with you.
I don't like to step on their toes until we have final numbers. It's
I'm
better
with
to
you.
show what the final is.
I know, I understand.
And the way the River Club debt is allocated versus the way the infrastructure debt is allocated is not 100% the same. So Scott will need to do his magic to calculate.
And just to go back to the analogy of the, your home mortgage, for example, you lock in a rate ahead of closing, you pay an amount, and we're paying 15 basis points or something like that for it, which is figured in.
We think it's about that. We don't
Something like
have a rate as what it would close right now
Right.
because banks are different, but we think that rate is very attractive at 2.4%.
Okay,
What-
okay. So
what
the number at 2.4 is a pretty real number.
I'm not familiar with these banks. Can you talk about the one that's recommended a little bit?
Sure, South State Bank it's a regional bank. It's based in Central Florida. They're fairly active in the tax exempt lending area. We've worked with them on multiple transactions. Both South State and Bank United have done CDD loans, which are a little bit different. They're both familiar with it. But we see South State as being pretty aggressive. It's one of the ones we expected that would provide a quote.
And these are solvent, good organizations.
They're investment grade rated. They are, we don't see any real risk over the next 3 months because they are investment grade rated. And once you get the money from them, it really doesn't matter what happens to the bank after that.
Well, what are
just
we
to-
pledging?
Oh, go ahead, Ernest.
Yeah, what are we pledging for security?
You are pledging the assessments. It's the same assessments that you are currently pledging to the bonds. It will just be a lower amount when the loan is finalized.
Right, and we'll have a trustee that will hold the funds. It'll be
Okay, tell me the
structured
end.
similar to what we have now.
Richie.
Yeah, sure.
Just a question. Once this closes, the rate, it's locked in for 20 years. South State could then sell part of
Sure,
it.
they could.
Um,
Happens all the time.
That's what they're gonna do.
And it's certainly a possibility that they might do something like that.
They have the option to sell the loan. It is a loan, not a security, so they can't break it up and then sell it to individuals and stuff. They can sell it to other banks.
Yep.
That does happen.
Ken he's a committee member.
So that would be opening up.
Well, he's a committee member.
Well, that's true.
Ask
Ken,
the boss, sir.
Point of clarity,
oh, go ahead.
point of information, well.
All right. Very brief, I just want to make a distinction, Rich, because I think it's important for the residents to understand that this could happen. Even though the assessments for the debt service will go down because of this, that doesn't mean the board can't take action in other areas to increase the budget, including possibly building up surpluses in order to partially offset some of this. So I don't want people to go away thinking, oh, we're all going to get the benefit of $347,000. It's possible that the board could make those kinds of decisions.
Right.
I just
Very good.
That's
In other funds.
right. That's
What we're saying.
They'll get the benefit,
An
just the
important-
question of where.
that's an important clarification for everybody. Nobody's getting a check for $50. That's not happening. But the amount of the debt service, which will show, will be reduced per homeowner based on the type of home that you have. That's a guarantee.
Yes.
Great.
Any other questions from the board?
I can frame a motion when you're ready.
Okay,
So it would be a motion to proceed with the term sheet offered by South State, with the 2042 final maturity, authorize the chair to execute and authorize staff to prepare the necessary paperwork for closing.
At all?
I'll make that motion.
Does that accomplish what you need?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I heard Rick first.
Sorry
Any
about
further
that.
discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Scott, did you want to add anything?
No, I don't believe so, Glenda. I'm just happy to answer any questions. Wendell did a great job presenting, and I think the board made a good decision.
Are there any questions for
Good.
Scott?
Glad somebody liked something we did.
Yeah, something, yeah. Bet you wouldn't bet.
It works for you, Rick, these guys say.
Wendell, thank you again for
Great job.
all the time you spent on this,
Yeah, well
plus
done.
the meetings that we've had outside of the CDD meetings. The way you explain things makes it quite easy for everybody to understand. And again, I thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you. I'll be back on the 22nd. We'll have final numbers.
The only thing I could never get straight is what we call your company. Prague, okay.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, we already had a conference call with the finance team last week. And everybody's on board to get everything done.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool.
Thanks again.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving forward, Supervisor, actually, we're going to move backwards and we're going to go back to the district engineer staff report. Rick?
Okay, I just have a few items. You guys had asked me to reach out to the city regarding the tiki hut and exactly what needed to be done. They responded back this morning, said it's just a basic building permit, so we're really good with all that, so.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
That's what the architect had thought.
Yeah, it looked that way to us, but you never know until they say so. Okay, the sidewalk repairs, the guy is just supposed to be here tomorrow. He'll be working on this sidewalk out here. I think we have a couple more places to look at, not to look at, to fix. Also, FPL is supposed to finish up their stuff out there on the irrigation. Today, we're open, and so.
It's done?
We're done. So the contractor will be in here tomorrow also to complete that tie-in, so, not the tie-in, the repair, the break repair, so.
Rick, there might be one more address for the guy to take a look at for grinding the stone on Savona. Do you know the number, Mike?
Rich, I don't, but it's gonna be, I'm gonna say between probably 129 and maybe between 129 and the court, Savona Court on the west side.
Okay. If they could take a look at that, because there was another trip over there, I understand, from one of our residents.
I'll stop by
Okay.
on my way out, and I got some paint, so I can
Okay.
do it up.
Thank you.
Okay. The tennis court, great work. He still says it's probably a couple weeks out, because I had asked him for the update on that as well. The lake banks, Keith has got me to looking at another place today. So far, I think I've got 3, not too big of the areas for the next round of the bank restoration. I think I got 2, but Keith said this should be 1 to consider also. So we'll be looking at probably 3 or so. And again, they're fairly small compared to what we've done in the past.
Okay.
The pickleball, the courts, I'm expecting the landscape plans by tomorrow. I've been working with the city on what the requirements are for this submittal, so hopefully this week those plans will go in.
Okay.
And that's all I had, unless anybody's got anything for me.
Rich, we want him here for the tiki bar.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
No questions for Rick?
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. So moving forward with our agenda, supervisors, the next item on the agenda is item number 5B, which is the discussion regarding the Benito Boulevard landscaping. Rick?
I believe it was Thursday that we received the plans from the architect. He broke it down into two areas, the roundabout is one area and one estimate, and then the east side of Veneto with a couple of beds on the west side of Veneto. As you know, at the last meeting, we voted to go ahead and sod most of the west side. That hasn't been done yet. That's supposedly going to be done November 1st. And we'll believe it when we see it. I don't know how the board wants to proceed with this. That's it. I don't know how the board wants to proceed.
Has the landscape committee, well, they meet next week, right?
They meet next week.
I would like them to take a look at this.
Okay, the only thing, what this does is it kicks it down the road.
You know,
We're gonna be December before we put a plant in the ground.
You have a recommendation?
I'm going to recommend that the landscape committee, I believe, meets on Monday. That's next Monday.
All right,
I'd like to get their input on this.
Okay.
I don't want to go down that road again of hearing stories that we knew nothing about this. So I think the landscape committee has to see this.
and that is, that's fine with me, except it does, now we won't look at it again until November 22nd, which means the bids won't go out until December, which means the plants aren't gonna get in until January. Just as long as everybody understands that.
You can keep the November 8th meeting if you'd like.
I can't hear
You can keep the November 8th meeting if you'd like to, and the November 22nd meeting will be a special meeting. It's already advertised, so if you decide that you want to give the landscape committee an opportunity to review this at their meeting, we can put it on the agenda for the November 8th meeting.
I would much prefer to do that.
Let me ask a question about
This
this.
we can only have this as the one line item for the meeting.
The, what's going to be necessary on the 22nd is a signature. We already have board approval on this.
No, you also have
So there'll be
resolutions.
two resolutions. One we call the bond resolution that bond counsel will prepare. And it will have the supplemental indenture and all the bond documents attached to it. The second resolution that I will prepare, called the assessment resolution, is that will adopt the report that Scott will prepare.
Okay.
So we will have some formal action to be taken. And then, yes, Rich, after the meeting, you're gonna go and sign $1 million.
So the presentation of the special assessment methodology report will take place at that meeting as well.
Correct.
Okay, if you want to move it along, we can make this one item at on November 8th, then we can do
I
that.
definitely want to move along.
We can do that.
Okay, so we'll keep, is everybody in agreement that we can keep the November 8th meeting? This will be the only item on the agenda for discussion,
That's it. One item.
unless something urgent comes up.
Unless, right. All right, I'm good with that.
I just have,
I'm not looking to delay it.
well, I have a question, sir.
Sure.
How have you been doing with quorums?
We should be fine. We haven't, the new member is a permanent resident. Joe is back,
So you're convinced you'll be able to have a meeting?
I hope. Yes, I think we have a much better chance of a quorum now than we did during the summer.
Okay.
But if we don't, what do we do?
Well,
Then we move on it on the 8th. We can't keep pushing this down the road. But that's my humble opinion.
All right, let's hope for a quorum.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing that we might think of is breaking it into two parts but again, I'd like the landscape committee to look at it if that's what you want. The roundabout seems very reasonable and within, pretty much what we spent on the other islands. Veneto itself, that's a big deal. It's a big amount. And I did question the landscape architect about irrigation. There's no money in this for irrigation, new irrigation. I questioned him about deer because we have lots of deer who are very hungry, and I don't want to have us put all these plants in and have them eaten. And I asked him, is this truly less is more? And he did eliminate a lot of the trees, et cetera, that he had in the previous one. It's really mostly ground cover. And this morning he sent me some suggestions about other ground covers that we might use because we had bad luck with the Confederate jasmine. And there's something like 1,200 Confederate jasmine in this plan. So that'll be something we can talk about with the landscape committee and come back with a recommendation to you.
Rick, I haven't seen the plans. What are the cost estimates?
For the roundabout, he's at 78,000. And excuse me.
No,
For
for the
Venetian,
roundabout.
he's at 78,427, and for the roundabout, he's at 28,270.
Okay.
So well under the 300,000
Well,
number,
it's actually 195, but we're still.
and
fine.
well under the 195.
Rick, I have 75,427 for Veneto. You said 78.
I misread it.
You
Anything
think
else?
my life's easy, huh?
Anything else?
So, speak about the west side.
Yes.
The west, it's been delayed a little bit.
Yes. What Keith has been told is there are, the sod provider has had COVID issues. So it's not LMP that's holding it up, it's the people who provide the sod to him.
And you shared that we're hopeful for November 1st.
1st of November, we're on the sod schedule, not necessarily with LMP, but on the sod schedule for November 1st. And LMP's been told that it should happen on the 1st.
Okay.
So I'm walking with my eyes crossed, my legs crossed.
So let me go back.
LMP's guy is here if you have a
Okay,
question.
so maybe all of us together. So let's assume that everything goes well with the sod, that November 8th, we say yay or nay to some of this, a portion of it. Is there any possibility of this getting done before the holidays?
That'd be a real reach, I think. It depends on how quickly we can get the bid. After the 8th, we have to get the bids out to the other landscapers, get those bids back, evaluate those bids. I think,
Probably not.
I got a feeling the holiday might be a real reach. It's a possibility, but not impossible.
The sod on the west side will be done by the holiday.
The west side should be done
Sure,
in November, before Thanksgiving, for sure.
Yeah, the sod is scheduled for the 2nd, not the 1st, so Tuesday.
Chris, I know there's issues with sod right now, across the board, because we're dealing with this everywhere. But what about plant material? Are there any issues with plant material as well?
There's always an issue with inventory, pending the size of the inventory and what type of plant you're trying to get. Right now, we have no idea what the plant looks like, but I mean, it really hasn't been an issue for us getting what is needed. So, we will turn this around as quickly as possible, as usual.
But
The other issue that falls into this is mulch, because we can't do the mulching until we do the planting.
Right.
Again, on the west side, once we do the sod, then we can do the mulch on the west side. And then we'll just have to hold off on the mulch on the east side until the plantings are done. So it's a lot of moving parts to it, but kind of like the tiki bar.
I'm gonna beat you.
I know. Neither one of us are gonna beat the hospital though, are we?
right.
Hospital's opening Thursday.
Yeah. Anything else? All right, thank you.
So we will keep the November 8th meeting on our schedule.
Okay,
I don't have copies of the plans or the proposal. Keith is gonna get it over to me so that, okay.
There's one there, and I can send it to you.
I'll send this, I'll scan it and send it over to you.
You'll send it to the committee then?
I can send it to the committee as well.
Great. And I would like to say Ryan has been pretty good to work with. He tends to be just in time, but it looks very good to me.
good.
Okay, so moving forward with our agenda, the next item on the agenda is item number 4C, which is the discussion regarding the Purpose Club mask mandate.
A month ago, we decided to put the mask mandate back in place, and there was some discussion amongst the supervisors at that time. My feeling was that we probably should keep it for those that are unvaccinated, but that we could consider relaxing it. However, we reached a compromise, and the compromise was that on the 25th, we would discuss this issue again. My opinion is that at this time, I think we should consider still having staff wear masks, put a sign for unvaccinated people, but vaccinated people, I don't feel should be required to be wearing masks in the River Club any longer.
I would support that. I was one of the opposers to eliminating it, And I would definitely support what you have indicated and recommended.
If you looked at the positivity rates this morning for our area, it's someplace around 2.5%, which is a marked improvement, moving things in the right direction. I would just ask that we continue to be vigilant. I can support this recommendation, but we should continue to be vigilant.
You know, I was against it to start with, so I think it's a good idea to change it.
Well, are you in agreement that we have a sign that says, or that unvaccinated people will be required to wear masks, and it's going to be on an honesty basis? I mean, we're not asking for the vaccination information or anything like that, and that the staff will continue to wear masks. I believe that's the ones that anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we relax the mask mandate immediately, and that we still require non-vaccinated people to wear a mask, and the staff will continue to wear them until some point in time when we revisit that, or Vesta does.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank God I'm free again.
Okay, bring the donuts out now. For those of you who missed that, we did have donuts one time, and Rick was wearing the shield, and he forgot he forgot that he had the shield on, and he put the donut into the shield. I still find it very amusing.
I guess so.
That's only me.
All right, so moving forward with our agenda, the next item on the agenda is the discussion regarding the Tiki Bar. This is item number 5D.
Well, I'll start. I think we left our last meeting where we were going to solicit two sets of information, one from Fishman and Associates and one from general contractors. Let's start with Fishman and Associates first. You should all have a copy of the proposal for Fishman. They are proposing to buy, furnish, and place the equipment in the appropriate areas with project management, with looking at shop drawings for supervision, everything except what they're calling hookups by the trade. So I'm assuming they're not talking about plugging in a unit into a receptacle, but if there's a plumbing connection that needs a plumbing device to do it, the contractor would have to do that. How many of those are required, I'm not sure in the documents. For them to do all of this, they're quoting us $49,000 in a few cents. And we're surprised because we think that's a very reasonable price given where we started out with this. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is a number of us have reached out to local contractors to give us a price for what we're calling the construction part of it. And Denise, I'll let you share what you may know with that part of it.
I have sent out two. I have two others that people are trying to get the information so I can send them out. And have received no quotes back at this time. I think we sent them out right after the meeting, so it hasn't been but a few weeks, and everybody knows everybody's busy. So hopefully those quotes will start coming in, and we'll have some information at the next board meeting. I guess we can't, but
yeah,
well, it'll be the one after.
I had one contractor that was interested, but came back and said they're too busy, no, at this point. And Rudy has, I think, two individuals that are still looking at it. Fishman has somebody that's looking at it also. So we don't know that part of it yet. Belinda?
Just a comment, Mr. Kleinglass. The proposal includes sales tax.
Yeah.
We're tax exempt.
Right,
So
right.
your actual cost would be $49,000.
Right, yeah. And I think that's what I said, 49 and change.
Right.
Yeah.
49, 616, 30.
Yeah. So questions, comments?
Well, what on page 4, $1,300 for material surcharge. What do you think that is? Right, it's the last item on page 4.
I don't know if it's an upcharge from the manufacturer a way of getting more money, for the project, you know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
We haven't gone back to Fishman and said, what's the real price?
Okay.
This was,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The price looks,
yeah.
I'm surprised at what it is,
We're
but
surprised.
when I see $7,000 for labor to put it in, that to me looks very, very high. How many guys are gonna be here and how long are they gonna be here?
You know, they're getting their money one way or another.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, when we're to the point, we're gonna go back to them and say, what's the real price?
So you're gonna do a not to exceed probably.
Well, we're gonna need some guidance on this whole thing. I'm just trying to move it along.
Yeah, well, amen, brother.
So we've got this part of it. You know, we said months ago, we thought 50 to 70,000.
Right.
We're a couple of months down the road and we're under 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Pretty good.
So we're happy with this part. I'm hopeful that maybe by the November 8th meeting, we'll have some information on the construction part of it and we can.
So it'll be a 2-item meeting now.
Yeah, we should probably
There we
keep the
go.
tiki hut on the November 8th meeting.
You said one.
Well, again, I think it's a timing factor.
Right.
Those 2 items.
If you have this revised, will you send it to me so that I can include it in the agenda package?
Electronically?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So other questions, comments?
So we're looking at next year or?
You know, I think it's all negotiable. I think there's still a discussion about, do we do it during season? Do we try to phase it? What's the impact, on and on and on? And I don't have the answers to those questions. We're trying to get some pricing right now and I thought the contractor that I went after, he's a local guy. I know the quality of the work he does. He's just too busy. And so I'm a little worried.
Denise, a question for you. If, let's say, we get all this together and we can get somebody to start in February, is there a possibility that we could offer the services of the Tiki Bar in a temporary location during that time so the residents are not impacted and that the work can continue?
What we were talking about is because when the equipment is going in, machines tear down, we don't want anybody near that.
Right.
So we would close off the gates and they would come in through the tennis door, be able to go out this way and get into the pool. They just cannot get out. And we'll have to make that clear and have actually staff out there monitoring it.
Right.
And we could either use the window here or each day bring out a portable bar type thing where it's right there for them. But absolutely, we'll want to continue to have the service.
Yeah.
Just figuring out where it's going to be.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so we're gonna try to have the least impact
Right.
on the community, on service, on availability of food, drinks, whatever, while this is ongoing.
Yes, and
Correct.
the
Okay.
pools should not have a total shutdown at all. We would at least minimum have the lap pool that we could say, okay, this lane for this, swimming in this, where there's not a no pool issue.
Okay.
We don't want that. So we'll be sure and have something where they've got the availability to be here and have food and drink.
That sounds good.
You know, and as the contract gets settled, we probably want to put some language in the contract that speaks about minimal disruption or phase disruption. You know, I don't see any reason why we would have to close the whole pool area off. We may have to close a lane off, you know, this side of it, but it shouldn't be that obtrusive.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
You're
Good
welcome.
news, Steve.
Yeah, we're moving along.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item number 5E, which is a review of the strategic direction updates, as well as item number 5F. I don't expect the board to review all of these updates. I provided you with a red line copy and a clean copy. This incorporates all of the recommendations that I received from the board members. I didn't receive anything yet from Denise, so that's not a part of it either. At this point, I think the discussion would be whether or not the board wants to appoint a committee. We did receive some excellent intents. I'm not sure if everybody got a chance to see the intents that I circulated to the board, but we do have a good amount of candidates that are interested in serving on this committee should the board decide to appoint this committee.
Question. How long this is not going to be a regular committee for life.
That'll be a sunset.
This is going to be something, let's say, a 6-month period or whatever it is until their job is done.
Correct.
Okay. Generally, when we have a committee, we allow the liaison to that committee to make some recommendations for the makeup of it. I guess what I'm thinking is that we should firstly select someone to be liaison and then have that person review these. And I agree with you. We have some very, very capable people who have thrown their hat in the ring, and I was so glad to see that. Let the liaison come up with some suggestions, and then we can help out.
We'd also need recommendations for the charter. So typically on the charters are pretty much, we've worked on the charters before. So everyone knows we include timeline, the goal of the committee, and we also have specific tasks with specific timelines. I think if everyone wanted to provide feedback, that's great. Or if you wanted to give that portion to the liaison so that I could work with the liaison on the charter and then present it to the board for review, we can do that as well.
I would lean in that direction as well. And I would also suggest, I know we spoke about numbers of people. Sometimes quorums are an issue. I would say that we should keep this committee at 5 and not go to 7. Because then we can still operate and do business with 3 people there, although every effort is going to be made to have, appointments of people who are, where there are at least a quorum that is full-time.
Well, my only concern with that is the fact that we're missing one supervisor at this time.
Well, we might be able to take care of that.
Well, today or?
I mean, you can choose
Okay.
to appoint someone, you just have to add it, obviously, it's not part of the agenda.
Right.
But you can add the appointment of, the new supervisor if you'd like to at this point.
Oh, okay.
We'd have to open the floor to, because it's something that's not on the agenda, we'd have to open the floor to public comment after the recommendation is made, correct? Well, I'll make a recommendation that we appoint Ken Smaha to fill the remaining term in seat 1, which would be until November of 2024, I believe.
I second it.
Okay, so let's revise that motion. So your recommendation is to appoint Ken Smaha
Yes,
to fill seat 1
yes,
for the remainder of the term.
yes.
Is there any further discussion?
I would like to know, were there other candidates that were interested in the position?
Only the ones that I submitted.
Okay, could you name those for us, please?
I believe Ken was the only one.
Ken was the only one.
Ken was the only person that showed interest.
Correct.
We are so popular. That tells you something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, if we were to advertise the preferred parking
Yeah.
and that goes
When
along
you
with
get the
this job.
Porsche and all that. Yeah.
So that's right.
Can we hear from Mr. Smaha about his interest?
Oh, didn't, is that necessary? He's already expressed.
Well, I'd like to hear
it.
from him. I mean, this is an important decision we're making.
If
You can tell him
nominated,
no.
now that you've been nominated,
Yeah,
Ken,
come
would
on
you
up,
accept
Reggie,
this
Please
position?
come up and.
Yeah, tell
Would
us.
you accept this
General
position?
MacArthur?
I mean, I'm curious, we have one person out of 1,700 homes here that applied to be on this board.
Yes.
I'm curious about Ken. I mean, you're an anomaly.
I am.
So
It's unfortunate.
it is
There's only
unfortunate.
one person put in for it.
Yeah, but you're the right person, so that's all.
I appreciate it. It's kind of sad because we're seeing it with committees, we're seeing it with the POA. I get so frustrated that people are so quick to send out emails anytime they don't agree with something. But when you say, why don't you run for that committee? Why don't you? Oh, no, I don't want to get involved. I don't have the temperament for it. What does that mean? But anyway, I would be, as you know, I ran for that seat.
Right.
I lost by 17 votes. I said at the time, I didn't know Carl, but I said at the time, if I weren't running, I would have voted for Carl. So he was a great candidate. I would be pleased, proud to take his seat for the remainder of his term.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you.
We do need to open this up for public comment because it wasn't on the agenda, so we're
Right.
gonna open up for public comment at this time, but just for this item, was there any public comment? Okay, the record shall indicate that we did open up for public comment on this item. We're gonna close out public comment. We do have a motion and a second to appoint Ken Smaha to seat number 1. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Okay, Ken? please
Come on
join
down.
the-
Come on there. Come on down.
And board members, anytime we add a new member to the board, we're required to take a look at our officer structure, but we don't have the resolution ready for today, so at your next meeting,
So
whether it's the
we'll add it
8th
for
or
the
the
8th.
Oh, yeah, the one where we don't have anything to do.
we'll take a look at your officer structure.
Congratulations, Ken.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Now, we're going to have to open a position on the Finance Committee. So I'm going to ask that we
We can do
circulate.
that at the end, because I think Ernest also has,
Okay.
an appointment as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a few things for Ken.
Also facilities.
Okay, so Ken, I need to administer your oath of office. If you could please stand and raise your right hand for me. I, please state your name,
I, Ken Smaha,
a citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America, and being employed by or an officer of the Venetian Community Development District and a recipient of public funds, as such employee or officer, do hereby solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida.
I do.
Here's your oath of office, if you could sign here for me, and I will notarize it for you.
The lead for your next newsletter.
That's it.
Just the one.
And in accordance with Florida statutes,
Yeah,
you are
just
entitled to
take your
receive
mask off now,
compensation
bud.
for your attendance at
No.
these meetings. Is it
Be
your
careful.
intent to receive or waive compensation?
I was gonna waive it, and then as I thought about it, I said I will accept it, but intend to donate that compensation or stipend to Special Olympics of Sarasota in memory of Carl.
You.
So there are 2 forms here that I need for you to complete since you will be receiving compensation. The first one is your W-9 and the second one is your board questionnaire. And then we will be assigning you your new email address, so you will receive that information from Carrie. Andy, do you want to give him an overview on sunshine law?
Sure. Ken, I know you've been on committees and I know you've heard the spiel, but I'll just review it real quick. Sunshine law basically is that no 2 members of this board can be discussing CDD business outside of a duly scheduled meeting. So you're free to still talk with these guys about the weather and the box, things along those lines.
Putts.
Golf, yes.
Yeah, putts.
But with regards to CDD business, you should not be discussing it with your fellow board members. The hang-up is always emails. What that means is not only face-to-face conversations or telephone conversations, but emails as well. So you shouldn't be emailing your fellow board members about CDD business. You will be, as you've just heard Belinda say, and as you're familiar with your committee work, you'll be assigned a CDD email address. Use that email address for all of your CDD work. Should there ever be a public records request, you do not get paid enough money to be the records custodian. So you want to make it so that Belinda